You need a great staff, and the educators are the key. And we have a 5-to-1 ratio. For every 5 students, we have 1 qualified master teacher. And with a master teacher, I mean that's a teacher that's going to command respect and it's going to be a skillful craftsman. So they're going to know their trade. And if you have great teachers, that's the key to everything. Because every great doctor came from a great teacher. So we feel if we hire the best educators, the program has to be a success. You can have all of the passion, but we want to have skillful passion. So we want to make sure we hire people that this is their trade, and this is what they do well. A lot of people can say they write curriculum, but we want to bring in people that, their whole career is based on them writing great curriculums. And we want to hire the same people that the other schools hire. And we want to bring them in, and we want the same results. We want perfection. And if we offer a perfect curriculum, great teachers, then the program has to be a success.
As many of you all are familiar with STARS, Striving Together, Achieving Real Solutions Math and English Academy, and all the wonderful work that it does, you all are probably as proud as I am that the opportunity it gives our young people and the growth and development, the education that it gives our young people. And I see Elijah probably every 4 or 5 months. I see him very, very rarely. But I always know what's going on. I keep in touch with him with different things that's happening, and it makes my heart proud to see that he and all of you all are continuing to impact young people. I spent 10 years in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools, starting off as a school counselor. Most people don't. When I meet them when I'm traveling, it's like, you start off in education? Like, yeah, that's where my heart is, and helping young people. I'm doing these different kinds of things, but it's all about helping young people grow and develop. And so it makes me extremely proud to see any type of program that's going to help our young people do better and be better. And to see people like yourselves and some of the speakers we have this evening. So we have a great program for you all. I hope you all got some good refreshments. With my sister, what's my sister's name in the back? She made some good old sharing, some good old cookies and juice and everything back for you, and I hope you all get a chance to enjoy yourselves. Again, this is family, so this is not anything fancy. This is just family here talking. We're talking about how do we do better and get better and be better. All right. So with that, I want to introduce Executive Director of the STARS program, Mr. Elijah Watson. Give him a warm welcome.
For years, I used to always hear, it takes a village, it takes a village, it takes a village. And in my mind, I'm thinking, what does that mean? So one night I just dreamed up, you know what? Let's have a program, all right? Let's have a program and let's break some things down. Because when we first started the STARS Academy 14 years ago, we started with a piece of paper and a pencil. When I say we didn't start with anything, we were like $2 in the hole. So all of the volunteers, so we pretty much had to bring in volunteers, okay? We used to bring in a lot of college students, that just recently graduated. Morehouse, Spelman. I went to Morehouse, so I used to, as soon as they stepped foot in Charlotte, I would say, you know what, you got that degree, now you have to pay for it. So Morehouse, Spelman, NC State, Chapel Hill, just a lot of, exceptional young people. And I used to talk to them, and the first question I used to ask them, you a success. You got a job, you have a nice car, your nice apartment, you a success. You graduated Phi Beta Kappa, whatever. How did you get there? And they used to always come at me with these elaborate answers. I studied physics at 2, and I tried to, meet Einstein. I said, you know what, let's break it down. How did you get to where you are? Because tutoring, to me, is mentorship. Teaching is mentorship. So I used to ask these young people, when you sitting down with that child and you're tutoring or teaching them, stress to them, walk them down a game plan. And the same thing as I used to hear. My mom and dad told me to cut the TV off at 4. I ate peas at 6 o'clock. I ate my carrots on Sunday. It was very basic. And those are the things they instilled in our kids. And I used to tell our kids, where you all are, what you want to be is where these people are. And the tutors, I used to tell them, you are our kids. You were our kids. So when they came in, they brought a lot of energy, but at the end of the day, they just brought a plan. I was somewhat successful in high school. I graduated #1, but it wasn't that I was smart, because I wasn't. I just listened to my older sister. She told me, you need to take this class, you need to shut up, you need to walk fast in the hallway. If you walk fast, people are going to think you're smart. So, I was already short, so I used to walk my head up and walk real fast with my book bag. But she gave me a game plan. So the purpose of the day, we want to give our kids and our parents a game plan. Creating or building a strong student, it's not rocket science. This village, I let all our students know they're going to be great because look who they have. They have an amazing village. And greatness does not mean, you know, driving the biggest car. Greatness does not mean, you know, having the big house. Greatness means becoming a taxpayer. Greatness is taking your child to Disney World. Greatness is becoming a great parent. Greatness is becoming a great churchgoer. And that's what I try. So the purpose tonight is just to come down with, you know, just we got some great educators and some great students, just breaking down what does it take to be a successful person in the class and also in life. All right? So I'm not going to preach too much because I was about to take off the jacket. But I'm just honored and just grateful for you all to come out because, like I said, this is a passion, and we're here for our kids. And the last thing I want to tell, you know, I stress to our kids, all the village, we do everything we do, so in 10, 20 years, you all can do whatever you all want to do. So that's what it takes, and that's what the village is all about. It's a strong group of collective-minded people that want to make you all succeed.
All right, we appreciate it, Brother Watson, and all the work you and your board and our community continues to do. So it's a collective we. You know, I have a problem even saying I sometimes. Some people say, well, you don't brag enough. I'm like, I just can't. It's a we. I'm standing on the shoulders of a lot of people, right? And we're here tonight in the Ivory Baker Recreation Center. You know who Ivory and Baker, these are two modern-day heroes, Shiro, working in our community that this place was named after. Here in Charlotte, North Carolina, in the Queen City, Charlotte, North Carolina, named after a sister, Queen Charlotte, right? With a president that looks like these young men right here, sitting right here, right? And a first lady that looks like this young lady right here, right? So we got a lot to be proud of. When people say, you know, our kids are doing this, our kids are doing, no, we're doing some good stuff too, right? So we got to celebrate and recognize the achievements that all of our young people are having and those people that we stand on their shoulders. So our first introduction of our speaker tonight comes from a young man who is at KIPP program, KIPP Charlotte. And KIPP, you all know, I have a long, long history of knowing about KIPP when they first started out in the Bronx. I've known about KIPP for about 20 years. Knowledge is Power program, even that word itself, Knowledge is Power program. So let's introduce and let's welcome Tamoy Rogers, a sixth grader at KIPP Charlotte.
Rayshawn Bennett is a sophomore majoring in political science at Davidson College. He previously attended Philip O'Berry Academy of Technology before finishing his last 2 years of high school at the North Carolina School of Science and Mathematics. At Davidson, he is the recipient of the Jackie Robinson Scholarship, the Presidential Scholarship, and the Bonner Scholarship. During his freshman year at Davidson College, he interned with the Office of Mayor Anthony Fox, examining youth-related incentives. He also did research for some of the mayor's other incentives, including creation of a streetcar in West Charlotte. He spent the summer after freshman year working alongside the Deputy Superintendent of Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools, examining AP enrollment during summer of 2013. During this internship, he examined ways to increase the number of African American and Latino students taking and succeeding in AP classes. He balanced his school work with being active in Black Student Coalition, Student Government Association, College Democrats, and the local Youth Enrichment Center. Next week is finals for him, and then he will be spending the summer in Washington, D.C., interning for the National Alliance for Public Charter Schools as a research intern. Rayshawn is a native of Charlotte, North Carolina, and on his free time enjoys traveling and hanging out with his friends. In his near future, he aspires to be an education policymaker. Ladies and gentlemen, Rayshawn Bennett.
A little bit about my past. So I grew up in a single-parent household, low income, faced considerable adversity throughout my life. My single-parent household I was raised by my grandmother, who only had a bachelor's degree. So obviously, I'm not in a position of considerable privilege, enough to, I guess, guarantee me a smooth pathway in lifetime. So it's all about. There was a lot of struggle. There was a lot of planning that I had to endure throughout my life, and there was a lot of determination and dedication. It wasn't easy. Something that I definitely had to do was plan ahead. So let's go through that. So in Ransom Middle School, I'm a product of the STARS program. I remember Elijah mentoring me. I remember tutors helping me throughout when I was in Ransom Middle School there. I later became a tutor when I went to Philip Berry, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. So in Ransom Middle School, I took a lot of honors level courses in order to push me. I had a lot of teachers who mentored me and who supported me throughout my time there as well. I got good grades. I made sure, my grandmother made sure that I wasn't cutting up in school, that I was doing the things I needed to be successful in high school and there forward. And if you're not taking honors level courses in middle school, it's not to say that, life is, you'll never get to college or anything, but it's always good to take at least one honors level courses. Many of my friends who are where I am today, they might not have taken straight honors level courses, but it's always good to at least challenge yourself and work hard in that too. And so I used Ransom Middle School and my time in middle school as a way to explore my academic interests. And so I was really dedicated to being a scientist, which if you can tell by my bio, that's not what I'm doing today. I'm doing more like government and education policy work. But I used middle school to explore my interests, science, writing. I think that's a really good time to start broadly in your planning stages and then work your way up to a more narrow position. And as I go throughout the speech, you'll see what I mean. So in middle school, exploring your interests, making sure that you're doing well in school, making sure that you're doing the steps necessary to make you successful in the future. So middle school is all about, from what I experienced, a more broad understanding. And again, mentors, one of my key mentors was my social studies teacher, and she introduced me to the North Carolina School of Science and Mathematics. That is a 2-year boarding school in Durham, North Carolina, very competitive to get into for academically gifted and not only academically gifted students, but people who are dedicated and determined to pursue academia. And so when I was in middle school, I was in 8th grade, and she told me, if you go throughout high school and you get straight A's, it will almost virtually guarantee you admission to NCSM. I did that and I got into NCSM. But I say that because it's people like her who saw something in me because I was doing the things, getting good grades, not cutting up in school, being dedicated and determined inside the classroom, where she took the time to mentor me and give me the resources necessary for me to better myself in the future. So having good behavior, having good merits does catch on. It does work out in the future as well. So transitioning to Philip O'Berry, I went there the following, after middle school. Continuation with taking honors level courses, getting good grades in there. But I use Philip O'Berry I use high school as a way to start narrowing down on what do I really want to do in life. And so besides taking courses and getting involved in clubs, I started talking to teachers. I started, in my church, I started getting involved, starting to get to know what do my church members do for a living. Some of them work at the IRS, some people are teachers, some people are bankers. They work with Wachovia and they work with Wells Fargo. So what do they really do? Is that somewhere where I can see myself in the near future? So that's starting in 9th grade, continuing in 10th grade, starting to get more narrow in what I want to do and pursue in the future. The summer after my 9th grade, I also took 9th grade to start applying for programs that for the summertime, and they were mainly academic enrichment programs that could make me, for me, their goal of the programs were to have me understand a little bit more about what I want to do in my future, the careers, what they do in the future, and also find out if this is something that I really want to do in life. And so the summer after my 9th grade year, I participated in a program at NC State called Summer College in Biotechnology and Life Sciences. I got a full ride scholarship to go there. I had one of my good teachers from middle school and another good teacher from high school write a recommendation to go there as well. So I was able to go up to NC State for a month, living on my own. I think it was 13 or 14 years old. So, you're never too young to even start. again, this is summer after ninth grade year. Usually people aren't, I tell people this and they say, well, I did that, summer after 11th grade or 12th grade. You never too early start. There's lots of resources out there at colleges in Charlotte, job shadowing, internships. If you haven't heard the Mayor's Youth Employment Program, it's a really, really good program. That's where I got my first internship, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, programs like that also help to boost your competitiveness for other programs as well. Because I was able to put, NC State on my resume, that helps you get other things as well. It helps you become more competitive, and it gives you a little edge ahead of the pack. It definitely does help you receive an edge, even if your grades aren't, straight A's or anything. Having A's and B's and maybe 1 C, but saying, hey, I went to NC State and I'm pursuing my passion, I'm pursuing what I want to do in life, really does speak to internships and colleges and other programs in the future. It's a great resume booster when you're doing these programs in high school as well. So Philippa Berry continued to do well. Summer after 10th grade year, I got involved in the Mayor's Youth Employment Program, and I believe that's still going on. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. But that's a program that gives paid internships. At least I got a paid internship, and I know everyone that I know did the program got a paid internship. But it gives paid internships to youth across the Charlotte region, and they usually target youth in majority minority schools, such as West Charlotte, West Meg, Philippa Berry. I know they recruited us heavily. And these are high-level internships. I was able to intern at the Charlotte Regional Visitors Authority. Totally different from science, but still using that mechanism of starting broad, working your way up narrower. I don't think at such a young age it's good to start to have a narrow mindset on this is what I want to do and this is the only thing I want to do, and there's so many more options out there. I don't even know all the options. That's why I'm going to DC and everything this summer. So after Philippa Berry, I transitioned to NCSSM, North Carolina School of Science and Mathematics. Totally different environment, totally different demographics I was around, harder classes, and the main goal that I wanted from NCSM was gaining critical thinking skills, and also starting to narrow down on what I want to do after life and what colleges I want to go to and what's out there for me after high school. And so at NCSM, gaining critical thinking skills from taking higher level classes, challenging myself, that's another big thing. Making sure that I'm staying dedicated and everything. And keep in mind, with the story, I want to make sure everyone's following. So NCSM, I heard about NCSM in 8th grade. So I'm already with that foresight for my future on how I'm going to get to that school. And it eventually did work out. So again, planning, challenging yourself, staying dedicated, staying rooted, those are key themes I want to reiterate. And then I used NCSM to my final year, both 11th and 12th grade, 11th grade on finding out what scholarships that I want, so that I can apply in for 12th grade. And I applied for a number of scholarships, started to look at ways I would craft my college admissions essay, ways I would pay for college and everything. Again, that whole theme of planning, so that you're not waiting till the last minute to do things. And many of those things did work out. And so I would encourage you, especially for people looking at scholarships, that scholarship programs such as the Ron Brown Scholarship and the Jackie Robinson Scholarship, although they are competitive, scholarship programs are really helpful because not only do they give you money, but they also give you resources, and that's really important. Resources as in mentorship, internships, connections. It's one of the reasons why I'm standing up here today is because some of the scholarship programs that I got. Moving on some of the things that I'm doing in the present to wrap up. So now I'm at Davidson. I'm in my sophomore year right now. The scholarships that I've had and that I've been able to apply for have helped me not only pay for Davidson, but also make me successful for Davidson. I've used Davidson as a way to continue my critical thinking skills, continue on narrowing down what I want to do in life, continue networking. So this is using this is the college stage, networking, continuing to get good grades, and continue to get, I guess, awards and achievements and accolades and things like that. So what should we take away? Some of the key things that I think is important about my pathway is that it's just one pathway. It's not the only pathway. There's many other pathways that people took. I would encourage you to learn from some of the great men and women in here on their pathways as well. Start broad, especially in middle school, and get more narrower. Starting broad and going narrow is predicated upon planning ahead. So planning ahead is very, very key. And I think also it's important to show passion in whatever you do. When I wanted to pursue a career in science, I made sure that I participated in summer programs that deal with science. And now that I found out that's not really what I want to pursue, I want to pursue something in education policy one day. I'm doing internships and I'm networking with people who do things in that field. I completed internships and will complete internships in the future that really showed my passion for government and public policy, specifically in education. And it's all about standing out as well. With the resume, using programs, using achievements, using scholarships that really can make you stand out and make people want to look at you, especially high-level scholarships and things like that. Really makes you stand out, really makes you ahead of the pack, really makes you more competitive. You guys all know to get good grades. I mean, that's a staple. That's elementary. And finally, I think one of the biggest things, if you learn anything else from what I said tonight, is that no one is going to do it for you. You're going to have to do it yourself. I think throughout my life, especially in the early parts of my life, that a big motivator and a big pusher behind me was my grandmother. When she died in 2011, I think that was a major part of me where I had to dig up the internal self-motivation and the internal self-dedication to keep going. And I think that's the biggest, that is the biggest part of, I think, a successful person is the internal motivation, internal drive. And if you don't have that, it's going to be very, very difficult to go forward. You got to want it. You can't do it for mom, can't do it for dad, or boyfriend or girlfriend. You got to do it for yourself. And I think your internal self-drive is the biggest part.
Thank you. Rashawn Bennett, our future Capitol Hill policymaker. We'll be seeing him somewhere. Him and Anthony Fox are going to be up there talking about, next Obama, right? It could be that, right? We could be that. We got a guy, the mayor, who's in the Secretary of Transportation. Why can't he be Obama, right? Let me be clear. I'm Rashawn Bennett, and I'm here, and I'm going to talk to Michelle, and we're going to have a good day. You understand? Where's Joe? Joe, come on up here. Yeah. Yes, this could be that. Any of you all could be President Obama. Up next, we have a young lady who is going to introduce our other speaker for this evening. And we had some very interesting talks outside with her mom. Her mom is in the house. Where's Miss Anna? There she is. Mom is in the house. We had a good talk. And she is a 8th grade student at Piedmont Middle School. You know, Piedmont has a lot of history here in this community as well. And she is so excited to get up here. She said, I'm not nervous at all. I'm going to rock this out, Mr. Rockman. I'm going to take it out. She didn't say all that, but I'm getting her ready, right? Got to get them motivated, right? So please, let's welcome Miss Shelby Perryman to the stage.
Good evening. Our 2014 STARS It Takes a Village Community Seminar speaker this year is 2012 to 2013 CMS Teacher of the Year, 2013 through 2014 Southwest Regional Teacher of the Year, and 2014 through 2015 North Carolina Teacher of the Year, Mr. James E. Ford. Mr. Ford is a 9th grade world history teacher at Garinger High School. He has been a teacher in Charlotte-Mecklenburg School since 2010. As North Carolina Teacher of the Year, Mr. Ford will spend most of the year traveling the state as a representative for more than 95,000 teachers in the state. Mr. Ford, one of 9,000 teachers at CMS, is the first CMS teacher to win this high status award in more than 40 years. Mr. Ford says that his personal journey has been both long and untraditional, but in the end he realized that it was his passion and ultimately led him to his purpose, which was education. Mr. Ford has a Bachelor of Science degree in Mass Communication and a master's degree in teaching. He is currently working on a degree in educational leadership from Wingate University. Mr. Ford is a member of many organizations and is very involved in Garinger High School and the community. He works hard to keep students from dropping out of school. Teaching was not a clear path for Mr. Ford, but we are glad he decided to teach and to come and share his experiences with STARS this evening. Congratulations and welcome, Mr. Ford.
This same passion that I have to see lives changed is ultimately what led me to become a teacher. See, a lot gets said about teaching, about teachers, about education, and the students that we stand before every day. But from my standpoint, the only way to make the world a better place is to actually get out there on the front lines, to help, to guide, and to teach, and to grow and develop those children who will ultimately inherit the world and make it a better place. Being in the classroom has given me the front row seat to look at and view and observe the kind of genius and the kind of intelligence that these young people possess. I see students from all sorts of backgrounds and circumstances utilizing their God-given talents to challenge themselves, stretch their thinking, come up with solutions to some of the world's most difficult problems. But I also see students, I must tell you, who are struggling to deal with issues of behavior, poverty, neglect, homelessness, and in some cases, drug abuse. These young people are not bad kids. These young people are untapped potential, but they just lack the proper guidance to bring that out. And that's why programs like these are so vitally important. For this generation, perhaps more than ever, the task of people in my position as teachers is more than just teaching. It's not just teaching that we do. We have to educate, and that's something different. I want to draw that distinction. We must let them know that we have to inform kids of the circumstances of which they're dealing. And so when they come into my classroom, it becomes my task to paint the bigger picture, to help them understand exactly what they're dealing with, because it's not really about school and the grades that you get. It's more about a quality of life and a quality of being. This is what you do while you're here could potentially set yourself up for the kind of lifestyle that you will have as an adult. And that's the message that I have to try every day to allow to come through. You see, when I deal with youth, I have to make it very clear that their generation is not my generation. That's one mistake that a lot of adults make when dealing with young people. This is not a good or a bad thing, it just makes them different. One mistake we do is we try to talk about the things and harken back to the days of, when we were in high school, and superimpose that onto the youth. And I have to let you know that things have changed quite a bit, even since I graduated high school. When I was in high school, No Limit Records and Wu-Tang Clan were the most popular rap acts. Some of y'all are familiar, apparently. But for these kids, Chief Keef, Lil Boosie, and Drake on the charts. I grew up listening to cassette tapes in my Walkman. Some of y'all don't know what that is. You all have MP3 players where you guys can have hundreds of songs, okay? And oftentimes they double as smartphones on top of that. And see, we made phone calls, we had to pay 25 cents. And if you didn't have that, you could call collect. If you didn't have money, sometimes you didn't have money. We pass notes in class. This generation sends text messages and Snapchats. There's a whole list of differences between us and them. I could go on and on. But one thing remains the same. The importance of education remains just as critical today as it did when we were younger. This is particularly true for children in poverty, African Americans, and Latinos. Because according to the Annie E. Casey Foundation, only 18% of black fourth graders in the United States scored at or above proficient in reading. 14% of blacks were proficient in math by the 8th grade, and only 25% of Latinos. These numbers are downright frightening when you consider the demands and the life skills that are required in the 21st century economy. They contribute to the ever-widening school-to-prison pipeline. Scholars often refer to it this way because there appears to be a line leading directly out of the schoolhouse into the jailhouse. It's as if we as a society have given up on certain segments of the population and decided that they cannot be taught or that they cannot achieve. And by believing this, we have decided to warehouse human beings in penitentiaries as a way of not really dealing with the root underlying issues. We have the most swollen jail population in the world. Black and brown folks make up approximately together 1/3 of the nation's population, but they also make up 2/3 of the prison population. We are 2 times as likely not to graduate as our white counterparts from high school, and 3.5 times more likely to be suspended. All of these numbers, as depressing and as dismal as they may be, combine to create a very bleak picture. I could go on and on, but I won't do that, because it really doesn't take a brainiac to see or to know what time it is. When you talk to our kids and you look in their faces, you can tell that even though they may not be able to use the vocabulary, if they can't articulate it, they can't render the statistics, they know that something's not right. They can look around and see that they're losing. But there's something that I also don't want them to overlook, and that's themselves. I don't want them to overlook themselves. I want them to look at themselves and ask, what can I do to find ways to not follow in the path that's laid for me? How can they actively resist dancing to the steps that have already been choreographed for them instead of dancing to their own beat? I want to challenge you, the young people and the adults, day after day, to find ways to rebel against the things that you are expected to do and to take your destiny into your own hands. This is the picture that I try to paint for my students upon entering my classroom for the first time. I tell them very simply that we all, whether we like it or not, fit neatly and nicely into somebody else's stereotype. No matter how unique we believe that we are internally, everyone does not get the opportunity nor the chance to know that side of us. So we must be aware of what it is that we project about ourselves on an everyday basis. Because if we are not careful, many times we can unknowingly perpetuate age-old stereotypes or caricatures of various groups that exist. There is a saying that the more things change, the more they stay the same. As a history teacher, this is something that is preached constantly as I attempt to explain the relevance of learning my subject. I teach my students that history is not a line as much as it is a circle, and that whatever has been ultimately will be. The purpose of learning history is to avoid the mistakes and the pitfalls of the past so that next time, when they come around, we are ready for them. Everybody, without exception, has certain prejudices, because we know that the word prejudice really means to prejudge. We look at certain groups and think certain things. These ideas get popularized in the media, and by media I want to clarify television, magazines, music, movies, the internet, etc. Whether or not these different mediums, whether or not we know what these different mediums are very powerful in either shaping or reinforcing people's opinions, and they can do a lot to change or damage how we see ourselves, our own collective esteem. Many of the individuals and the entities responsible for producing these very images, they don't have a vested interest in seeing certain populations thrive. In fact, it's actually quite the opposite. There are many financial interests in seeing the emergence, with the emergence of what we call for-profit private prisons like Corrections Corporation of America or the CCA. These are people who literally have invested their money in prisons and making sure that when they build these prisons that the beds and the bunks, that they stay occupied. And some of these are the very same people who produce these negative images that are perpetuated throughout the media, ironically. So that when you look at things from an aerial viewpoint, you can see how the achievement gap that I spoke of the school-to-prison pipeline, the media stereotypes, and privatized prisons are all a part of the same story. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, what is our role in all of this? What do we do? Well, I can tell you a couple of good things. Number one, there's some good news, and that good news is we can win. We can win. You can overcome. Despite all of the negative things that you just heard, you can overcome. I don't care what you look like, what's going on in your neighborhood, who your family is, how much money you have or don't have, what your race or your ethnicity is. I don't care what you've been told by your sister, your brother, your mother, your father. You can win. As the old folk singer James Taylor wrote in his song, Shout of the People, he said, you can play the game, you can act out the part, though you know it wasn't written for you. We have to find ways, young people, to resist by saying, yeah, I hear you, but that's not me. I want to leave you with four things that I can give you to help resist. And they're what I like to call the 4 arms of resistance. Number one is what we've been talking about today and what this program is all about. It's education. And when I say education, I mean pursue college or career education. That's the first arm of resistance. Number 2 is fiscal responsibility. You have to live inside of your means. We can get to that a little later. 3 is productive citizenship. This means we need to find ways to stay out of the trouble with the law, abide by the law. And number 4 is family planning. If we can, we should try to wait before we have children, because it's a tremendous commitment that oftentimes ends up setting us on a path for poverty. These 4 things, when they are working together in concert with one another, give us the best chance at success in climbing out of some of the dangerous pitfalls that so often trip us up. When we talk about education, I want to be clear that education does not guarantee wealth. That's often the bill of goods that we're sold, that if you go to school that you're going to become rich. Go to school, get a good job, so you can be fabulously wealthy. Well, I have a good job. I'm not wealthy, though. I need to tell you that. There's a difference between a quality of life and a quality of being. Education ultimately makes you a better person. To be able to be aware of your surroundings, to know what has been, to know what has happened, to be able to relate to people that look different than you, to be able to articulate yourself, to have a good knowledge base. All of these things they make for a more productive society. And yes, there is a correlation between educational attainment and your marketability in the workforce. So yes, in terms of climbing out of desperate situations, education, whether it's career or college, because we need to support young people, whether they want to be a cardiologist or a cosmetologist. So long as they're not out here doing anything illegal, and they're providing a livelihood for themselves by savory means, one that does them honor, we need to be in support of that. So the first arm of resistance is education. The second arm is fiscal responsibility. Now that is a highfalutin, dressed up phrase that basically means we need to live inside of our means. While there are many things that cause poverty, most of them are structural. There's a couple things we can do to gradually spend our money more wisely. We live in a culture of consumerism, y'all. And when adopted by people of meager means, especially those of poverty, it can be a major impediment to becoming more economically stable. See, we live in a society where it's all the rage to try to keep up with the Joneses. And when you don't have much, sometimes you want to do anything that you can and acquire anything that you can by any means so that you can be seen. And while I empathize with that, one thing I need to make us aware of is that that's really not what it's all about. That's not what it's all about, because I stand before students all the time and they hate hearing me say, I have kids who ask me, Mr. Ford, can I borrow a pencil? Can I get a piece of paper? And I look them up and down, and they got on $200 shoes. And name brand everything. I said, so you went out and got $200 shoes, but you don't have a pencil and paper. And they always get upset. Here you go, I just want to borrow some. I said, I need you to understand this logic here, okay? Because while I understand what you're trying to say, I understand you're saying, look at me. I need you to understand that there are different ways to be noticed. And one thing we need to learn how to do is we need to learn how to enfranchise ourselves before we go out trying to keep up with the trends. Because a lot of us fall victim to, adults fall victim to, I need to say it one more time, adults fall victim to. Because a lot of us got the Michael Kors bag with $5 in it, driving around, and you know, the Beamer with a quarter tank of gas in it. You know, we do things, we live outside of our means sometimes. But if we're going to climb out of the dangerous grips of poverty, we need to, one, be educated, and two, we need to be fiscally responsible. Third, we need to be productive citizens. A lot of us aren't aware of what criminal disenfranchisement is. It's a major contributor to keeping people impoverished. Arrests, convictions can lead to a life of very limited opportunities by way of legalized discrimination. We must encourage already marginalized groups to do everything within their power to limit negative and unnecessary encounters with the law. According to the Global Justice Forum and Sentencing Project, there are estimated 5.5 million Americans that are denied the right to vote because of laws, and prohibit people with felony convictions from getting jobs, from getting public housing. Did you know if you get arrested and get a felony, you can't get student loans, you cannot go to college, you can't stay in public housing even after you come out, your family can't house you, it'd be illegal for them to allow you to stay in public subsidized housing, and people can discriminate against you once you check that box when it says, have you ever been convicted of a felony? So what is one left to do? It's legalized discrimination. So what we have to do is pull that situation up by the roots and try to manage our encounters with the law and make them as productive as possible. Lastly, I see it every day at my school. We know certain things happen. Now, I don't want to condemn anybody for the decisions or situations that have happened because I believe that children are a blessing. But when it comes to families, one thing we need to understand is that having a child, you're not having a baby, you're having a child. It's a lifelong commitment. And it's one that needs to be taken and thought about with extreme caution, because once you oftentimes make that decision, once you experiment with those types of things, when you conceive a child, when you deliver a child, if you're not prepared financially, it can oftentimes keep you in a state of perpetual poverty. A lot of this is cyclical. And so as young people at this age, it's imperative that we at least start thinking about these kinds of decisions, because there's a strong correlation between having children at a very young age and cycles of poverty, particularly for women and children. Although these things are dismal, I want you to take them to heart. They're four basic arms: education, fiscal responsibility, productive citizenship, and family planning. If we can enact all four of these things, we stand a greater chance of providing wonderful communities and villages, which is the theme of this entire program, and insulating ourselves in a positive situation. My message is very simple. When I think about all of the young people, and you get all kinds of arguments, oftentimes they end up pushing back harder than you would like them to. But I try to break it down for two words to combat this mentality that I call the D- mentality, and that is we have a generation of young people oftentimes who are content with just passing. Because you know a D- is passing. But what I try to explain to them is it's not just a grade that you're getting, it's a mind frame that you are adopting. I asked him, I say, here it is, Mr. Ford. I say, you call this work? Well, at least I'm passing. I said, is that how you want to live? Do you want to have just enough money, just enough food in your refrigerator to not be starving? Just enough money in your account to where you are not broke? Do you want to be just getting by on subsistence? I try to tell them this is a mentality that you're adopting. It's not about A's or B's. It's about what kind of lifestyle do you want to lead. So I want to encourage you all, and it seems like all you are already on this path, but two words I want you to remember. Be more. Be more. Be more than just a statistic. Be more than just somebody who goes to school. Be more than somebody who wants to put their foot as close to the ledge as possible without falling in. Be more than what society expects of you. Be more than just a basketball player or athlete or entertainer. Be the LeBron James of law. Be the Jay-Z of engineering. Be more than what society has set up for you to be, than what your peers and everyone else told you that you are, be you. Thank you so much for your time.
And we want to take a few moments for some Q&A about how we do that. We'll take questions at this time. Any questions? Yes.
My question isn't about the STARS program, but Rashawn, I want to know, what did you do the summers of after your junior and senior year? I heard the 9 and 10.
Alrighty. So, this summer after junior year, I got involved with the Mayor's Youth Employment Program, and that's when I interned with the Charlotte Regional Visitors Authority. That's Charlotte's main, it's kind of like a public and private type of tourism company for Charlotte. And then after 12th grade, I interned with the Mecklenburg County Health and Human Services Finance Department. So that's what I did after 12th grade. The Mayor's Youth Employment.
After the 10th, then I missed something.
After the 10th grade, I did not have an internship. Yeah, that was the only summer where I.
Any questions about the STARS program? We know we're doing a wonderful job giving young people. How many students in your program? 150 students. And what does it cost?
Free.
Wait. You're just talking about fiscal responsibility. How much does it cost?
We believe in God and grants.
God and grants. Two G's.
G&G.
G&G. You get the one, the other one called it come, right? Get the first one, the second one automatically comes.
Hey, tell me what free is worth.
Yes, we.
Come on up here, tell me, man.
It's- You know, we would like to charge, but sometimes, you know, we didn't want anybody to say no. Because sometimes, you know, people, there's a lot going on in the economy. Some people can afford to, some people cannot. One day we may have to charge, but, I mean, August, you know, you can tell them grade. So I grade in August because I haven't received the grant yet. But God always tells me, brother, take your time, I got you. And so I get on my knees and say, you know what, it needs to come. He always tells me, I mean, it's like every time, the boot camp, the high school academy, I mean, man, every time. Every time.
Sylvan charges $7,000 for a summer program. $7,000.
And we're going to continue because of parents and students. And I mean, we have some amazing students. And I brag when I'm having a bad day. I think about the 3s and 4s. I think about the OGs. I think about them speaking because we have to. It's enough negativity. We have to promote when Shelby and Timor are speaking, and they speak with conviction. And they speak with authority. We like, you know, and Rayshawn, I don't know Rayshawn, at the point, you know, Rayshawn was tutoring the tutors. You know, seriously. Got to a point, he was like, nah, bro, you know, you need to, it's X plus 2 minus 1. You know, so I was like, you know what, you're a de facto tutor. But that's what we need, you know, that's what it's all about. So just, you know, and I just have one question, you know, to the parents. You know, what can we do more? What can we do a better job of? And not only STARS, but just in the city. What do you want to see more of to make sure our kids become successful? It can be STARS, Boy Scouts. You just have to name one program or just one thing. Yes, sir.
Not what you can do, because you all are doing what's necessary and what's needed. It's what we can do. This is a free service that's worth $7,000 plus. What can we do to support you of not just handing out monetary gifts, which you said that as well, and that should be open just for open gift giving. But in terms of materials, pencils, outside of $100 sneakers, you know, those kind of things. What can we do? And maybe you can just have a listing of that sometimes.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah. No, we definitely, for instance, your wife, she was saying you all should be paying for snacks. So she made sure all the parents got the snacks. And, you know, it's just one of those things that our parents are just, you know, it's amazing. I mean, we have single moms, we have single dads, we have families. I mean, we are a collective unit. And the main thing is just to get the word out that it doesn't cost a lot to run a program. I mean, every year we give away $500,000 in free services. I mean, let me say that again, $500,000. And we do it because it does not, we don't feel it costs $1 million. We would like to have more money, but at the end of the day, we have to work as a team, we have to be smart, you know, we have to listen to people, and it's just working as a team, and we would definitely put something like that, you know, on the website, things that we can use, because I need to do a better job of asking.
Here's something, we talked about this before. So I do Facebook, and he said he does a little bit, but he's not a social media guy. So what I heard is that he needs is a social media person. If y'all know somebody that's good at social media, to start a blog, a Twitter account, Instagram, Snapchat was the other one, some of that stuff. If we can get somebody, or not maybe 2 or 3 people who are really good at that, doing some hashtags and stuff, and doing some social media campaigns, she's looking at me like, yeah, he don't know what he's talking about social media. I really don't. But if you get somebody to start something like that, that would be really important. And just in terms of spreading the word, because the grants will come by when they see that you're impacting more people, and yet more people know about what's going on. So if you all know somebody that does that kind of work, or just wants to put their passion around doing something like that, please, that would be helpful, right? All right.
Everybody can post to Facebook and their own Twitter accounts. We should be doing it right now.
Yeah.
5 years ago, John Eastman, who's a mentor of mine, introduced me to a person that introduced me to Rahman Khan, who's another mentor, and we were on his show, I think, the first season. And back then, we had, I think, 60 students. We had about a $10,000 budget. The show, you know, he's a great host, you can tell. And the word got out. So next thing you know, Wells Fargo gave us money. It was all about the credibility. When you're on the Rahman Khan show on Good Works, they see it. And that's where you got, yeah, fade, yeah. You know what, I bought a brand new suit that day too. My mom was like, brother, that's my son. I paid some money. But the thing is, it's all about that, it's the credibility. And when our parents tell other parents, tell church members, because like I said, this is a vessel from God. We're gonna, you know, we're 14 years, but we're gonna continue, and it may not be me running. I see Timor, I see Shelby, I see Brian, I see just, you know, Mr. Ronnie. I just see a lot of different people that we're gonna, you know, now we're hiring students. That's what makes it amazing. Some of our past students are coming back and being directors and interns.
I like to say there's a way too we can help is like if your companies, a lot of your companies, you can make a contribution and they will match it. And if you drop down, STARS is on there. And I learned that through, you know, the yearly contribution. And I just have to give, as the young people would say, a shout out to this young man because I work for investment bankers and I had a head investment banker of the firm write him a note. He goes to Davidson, well he went to Davidson, and now he does, it's not all about money, but I can tell you that, you know, he's probably like 6 million deep, and he wanted him to know that he's thankful for the job that you're doing.
Is that no private?
It is private investment banking.
No, say, is it no private? Is it note?
He wrote him a note private.
Is it private note?
He
Okay,
did,
good.
he wrote it, and, because I heard he was coming and he went to Davidson.
That's
And the banker, he's the head banker
That's
of the
great.
firm, and, great job by the students. God bless you.
Or can you tell us, because I think it's really important for us to talk about what to do, but it's another thing to show people how to do it. Can you talk to me about maybe a student you had or a young person you come across who changed his academic standing around from, you know, something that wasn't productive to something that was productive? Talk to me your thoughts on how that young person was able to do it.
Sure. You know, I think that this generation, as I mentioned before, they're different learners, and so a lot of them, they need stuff to be modeled for them. So what you're doing here, mentorship, it's one thing to be told. It's another thing for you to demonstrate it. I had a student a couple years ago in my civics and economics class, and he's a good kid, always was, but he was apathetic. He talked a good game about how he wanted to change his community, then he would sit in my class and go to sleep. And not do his work and not, you know, just, he was unresponsive. And we would have chats. I would pull him aside and talk to him and say, brother, listen, what you're doing is counter-revolutionary, okay? Like, you are not changing your community right now. Now, I would tell him about books to read, you know, And it's things that are off the curriculum, but things that I know spoke to what his specific interests were. You know, he was a big fan of the Black Panthers. He was a big fan of, you know, a lot of the revolutionary movements in the 70s. And that resonated with him. Now, I have to tell you, he did not turn around in my class. But he ended up turning around his whole countenance, his whole behavior, his whole swagger ended up taking a 180. And he came up to me last year down to my room because he ended up transferring out. But he said, Mr. Ford, I graduated on time, and I had to come to let you know. Man, he said, I was bugging. He said, with the stuff that you told me, I took it to heart. I said, man, I can't be no kind of revolutionary. Mr. Ford is right. And so that was everything that I needed to carry me into the next year. That's why we do it. But it's about mentorship. It's about speaking to kids, building relationships, and directing them to things that interest them. And eventually, maybe not when you want it to, eventually those seeds germinate. They take root and they grow.
Yeah, and I think part of it is too is showing those role models and showing that mentoring aspects. One of the things with our young people, they can't be what they can't see. And they never see anybody, they never see an engineer, they never see doctors, all they see is LeBron and Jay-Z. That's what they want, or who the new guys now, Chief Keef and those guys. If that's all they see, that's what they're going to want to be. So a lot of it is exposing those young people to different types of people. And I know you do that by bringing folks in, but exposing people to other people and other careers and other opportunities. You know, growing up, there was only a certain amount of, I probably knew about 15 jobs that existed. My mom was an educator, and I knew about, but the older I got, the more I said, there's a whole world of careers out there and opportunities and entrepreneurship opportunities out there that I never could have imagined. So exposure is a big part of it early in the process, and letting them see that I can do this, and this, and I can have my choice once I get that education. All right, yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ford, can you talk a little bit about your calling path? What I heard Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
Of where you were in high school.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my high school experience. But it was the antithesis of everything that Brother Bennett expressed. I was not focused. I was apathetic. I got average grades, most of the time below average grades. My parents constantly stayed on me, but what they did do was they cast a vision, and they constantly reinforced that you're going to college. It was not an option. You can't do this in college. How you going to act when you get to college? You better not call me doing this when you get to college. So it was an expectation at all times. And so the light bulb finally went off around my junior year when I decided that, you know what, I know that I'm smart, and it's time that I exhibit that. And when I got to college, I realized there were other individuals like myself, that there were subjects out there that, you know, gravitated towards my interest. And I developed as a person, as a leader. And, you know, long story short, I was a journalism major. I was a mass communication. That was my field. Economy took a turn. I started working with youth in nonprofit sector, doing things like this, working in mentorship programs, working in the schools, and truancy intervention. I fell in love with kids. I said, I gotta do this as a job. And I was like, oh yeah, teachers. Yeah, teachers, they work with kids. And I took off and I haven't looked back. It has been the best decision ever, but it is a calling. It is something I've been ordained to do. And I recognize that now. There's nothing like growing where you've been planted. And so I thank God for that.
Programs, as you all heard, work with a lot of resources. They need resources, and it's free for the students, but we know that Elijah and the STARS program has support, financial support. So I wanted to bring up real quickly Tasha Wesley, who is on the board of directors. She's the chair of the board of directors, and she's also with a financial institution here that helps to support STARS. So we give her an opportunity, and let's thank her for her work.
Good afternoon, everyone. How you doing? Good. I have learned a lot. I feel so inspired. I feel inspired every time I talk to Elijah and all the great work that STARS is doing in the community. And when he came to us with this idea of It Takes a Village, I said that is the perfect opportunity to really talk about what does it mean to take part in helping kids succeed. And he does this every day. He lives and breathes it every day. And so for Wells Fargo, I work for Wells Fargo, and Eli and I partner together all the time, and this is the type of thing that they really believe in, and they believe in community. So for us, this is a no-brainer. But I just want to thank Elijah for the work that he's doing. I think the speakers, Teacher of the Year, I was so honored to meet you. And Rashawn, it's good to see you again. So we really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Tasha. And I have to say too, because sometimes companies like Wells Fargo and the big corporations get a bad rap for not doing the right things, but they, like Mr. Ford said, they help people be more fiscally responsible. They have all types of educational programs helping young people learn how to manage money, save money, invest money. So we have to take advantage of that, and we have to recognize. And this is what one of the reasons why I started Good Works is sometimes we don't recognize people when they're doing the right thing. We recognize when they're doing the wrong thing, but not when they're doing the right thing. And so I want to just thank Wells Fargo and the work that you guys are doing and continue to support it. Because when they do the right thing, let's say thank you, right? Because they're helping to make sure our communities are getting better and doing better. So thank you for that.